Time once again for the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast with you as always, Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, Soren Petro with you. We're talking Kansas City Chiefs football. What do they need to accomplish with this second preseason game down in Tampa? We'll get into that. We will also talk about who needs a big game maybe on both sides of the football. Also, we're going to project out the 53. Where does it sit right now? 2 preseason games to go. Certainly still some time for some people to make the roster, get cut from the roster. We do it right here and right now on the Red, Gold, and Bold.
You are listening to the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Chiefs on planet Earth, breaking down the Chiefs like no one else can. Red, Gold, and Bold is hosted by Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro. Jeff Chadiha is a senior columnist and on-air personality for the NFL Network and NFL.com. Sam McDowell is a columnist for the Kansas City Star. Soren Petro is the afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. The Red, Gold, and Bold podcast is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are the hosts of the Best Chiefs podcast, Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro.
Thank you very much, Curtis. We do appreciate it. Off and running here on a Friday morning. If you're catching us via the podcast, remember Tuesday nights, 9:30 p.m., Friday mornings, 10 a.m. You can be a part of the conversation, as many people already are. In the chat room, guys, let's talk about what's going to need to happen in Tampa. What are we looking for preseason game number 2, Sam? What do they need to accomplish against the Bucs?
I think a few things, but in order to not claim them all, the one I'll say off the top is they got to have a pass rush of some sort. Stren, you mentioned the 0 sacks in the game, but it wasn't just the fact that they didn't tackle the quarterback. They didn't get to him. Like, I was thinking about this. Ty Simpson must think that this this transition from college to the NFL has been overstated. Because he dropped back 25 times and he was pressured 3 times. Yeah. 22 clean pockets and 25 dropbacks. And by the way, in the clean pockets, he was 20 of 22. The times he was pressured, he was 1 out of 3 for 5 yards. Like, you've got to move the quarterback, no matter who it is.
It's number 1 on my list. I mean, Jeff, I don't know about you, but I think Sam is right. Like, I understand that they kind of talk around it, but this has been a problem for 2 years. Yeah. And, we're vanilla, we're doing this and that. Okay, yeah, right. So vanilla just means you're asking your guys to just go beat the guy across from them, and they're not doing that, right? I don't think the Rams came out with some exotic blocking scheme that said, you can't possibly get through here. And so the fact that what has been a trend, if they had 70 sacks last year, you'd be like, okay, whatever. They're not even trying. Right, but they have not been good at getting after the quarterback. I think Sam's right. I think that's got to be number 1 going into this. You want to show that you can at least affect the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's your number 1 thing because it's been your number 1 thing for 8 months. Every time we talk about it, you're like, how long is 0 sacks going to be an issue for you? But yeah, I agree with all that. And you're right. I mean, aside from a couple of flashes from R. Mason Thomas in the previous game, that you don't know who is going to, step up and be a playmaker. Now, again, George Karlaftis didn't play in that game. Chris Jones played a snap, so you're hoping when they're involved it can look differently. But the reality of it is that if they can't really generate pressure, that this defense is going to look drastically different from what we've seen in previous years, because the secondary we still don't know about. And that's something I want us to continue to look at is with who emerges at corner as a player. Can a guy like Jaden Hicks continue to do some things and make this team and maybe improve his opportunities of maybe making good on the promise he showed or he was supposed to have coming in as a rookie? I think the offensive line, because of some of the hits they've taken injury-wise, like what's that going to look like with some of the people who are going to be playing? We kind of minimize it because we're so consumed with Khalil Benson and Jalen Moore and where they're going to play, but we really have to take a hard look at the Hunter Norzads and the Caliendos and what they're doing in these kind of situations, because if they have to play right now, it looks like it's going to be a long day, a long year for them as well.
Yeah, the offensive line is a big one here because they are dealing with some injuries, and we're going to get to our 53 and what we're projecting that to be right now. But Sam, Norzad's having to step in and play at right guard. We're going to see Norzad and or Caliendo. They're talking about playing a quarter and a half with the frontline guys. So we will get a chance to see Khalil Benson and Jalen Moore playing out there, and you'll get a chance to measure what they actually have at tackle, which is going to be an indictment of what we think ultimately just right tackle is going to be. But you'd like to see them, be effective in the run game, but also in pass protection with guys that, show that they've got some depth beyond just what the projected starting five is. Really the projected starting four, which is what we know they have. Like, this is an opportunity for them to make a statement on the offensive line.
Yeah, that would have been second on my list was just, because you're going to see so many second string guys play with Fields, with the starting group. And then obviously once the starters are out, you're still, I actually wonder if you're going to see some of those starters like Caliendo just carry on and continue to play with the twos just to get a better evaluation of them, because based on that first game, nobody on that second team offensive line, other than maybe Esapole, should feel like they've got a spot on the team. They all should feel like, just because they're sort of doing the roster math and saying, okay, well, I'm better than this guy, but that's not good enough to be guaranteed a spot on the team. Like, because they can pick up somebody after cut down day. I think you've got to perform, not just beat out the guy that's behind you on the depth chart.
Yeah, I think we can add, Jeff, no penalties, right? Like, they've got to get out of this. Like, I'm not as concerned about the penalties in the first game. I know that was a big talking point for a lot of people. But if it happens in the second game, then this is just a continuation of what was a big problem for them last year. It's kind of like the pass rush. I want them to affect the quarterback because they haven't done it for a couple of years. I think you'd like to see him be fairly penalty free along that offensive line, because that has been a problem for a couple of years. At some point, you got to break that trend.
Yeah, and it's a problem they can't overcome anymore, which is what last year showed us. And I know there's so much discussion about the stars and what they can become, but this is a team that now is very vulnerable to little things derailing them, and they can't rely on, remember back in the days, they get down 21-0 against somebody or 14-0 and come storming back and win by 2 touchdowns. Like, that's not going to happen. There's just, things are too even. And if that stuff does continue, it's going to be a problem, just because they can't deal with it in the same way.
Yeah.
There's a couple things on that. I mean, one is, it wasn't the starters who got flagged for a lot of penalties, and I think that shows the talent disparity is like, you grab and hold when you're beat. Yeah. And so I consider penalties an indication of not playing well as much as just like a bad decision. It's like a natural inclination. I'm beat. On the pass rush, though, I know this is gonna sound like a hypocritical argument. I am looking at the backups because the whole point of the Chiefs pass rush needing to improve is you should know what you have with Chris Jones and George Karlaftis. So those two guys not playing doesn't subtract the evaluation of how you think the front line group is going to do, because the whole point of the Chiefs pass rush needing to improve is the supporting cast is what has to improve. I do think Chris Jones needs to have a better year, and we've talked about George Karlaftis being healthy without the hand injury, and like it's time for maybe him to have a breakout. But the reality is that the rest of the guys in the defensive line is who needs to bring up the pressures and who needs to bring up the sack numbers. So that's why that evaluation, even with those two guys barely playing in game one, and it's not like Chris Jones is going to have a really long runway in game two, like those are the guys that you need to evaluate.
Yeah. Well, and also the second wave, like you said, Sam, you look at the Seattle's, the Philadelphia team from a couple of years ago, those second wave guys should be a big part of what you're doing as well.
Yeah, great point.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to be more effective, deeper games, because you're going to get into the depth a lot more for the length of the season when you go through all that. Running the ball, this has been a point of emphasis. I mean, they were fairly effective with it with Emmett Johnson. He showed it. I mean, I think that's one of the things that has to continue. Sam, is like, if you want to run the ball, then you need to be. We talk about breaking these trends. They didn't run the ball very well. did pretty good. Now build on that and be effective with whoever you hand the football to. I do think it's important to start building that culture and show that you can be effective running the ball, because a lot of that just is a measure of your talent at this point. If you're going to be vanilla, do you have the offensive line that can, maintain blocks and get people home? Do you have running backs that can see the hole? I don't think you can come out of this and, have 16 carries for 32 yards and be like, oh, no. We'll be fine when we get to the regular season.
Yeah, I'm going to extend that too and say I think anyone who played well in the first game, I'm eager to see if they back it up, and so to me, top of that list is Emmett Johnson, Soren, for all the reasons you mentioned. Like, he had a really good showing, but is this a one preseason game, or can he advance up the depth chart and actually become a factor who gets 5-6 carries as a rookie in a game early on in September? And the other guy on that is Jaden Hicks. Like, Jaden Hicks was the best player on the field for the Chiefs on Saturday. He's been a second stringer in training camp. And so one preseason game is enough to make you think. It's not enough to make you change the way you order your depth chart, to change the way that you're going to evaluate playing time. You've got to do it again and probably again and a third game, because the whole point with Jaden Hicks is limiting the mistakes. And so if you can play another good game, another mistake-free game, and be all over the place, like, force it to where the Chiefs can't take you off the field.
Yeah. Well, I want to add to that before we get. I don't know, and Sam's there all the time, so he sees this. I'm trying to figure out where Amari DeMarcado fits into all this with the run game, because it's not clear to me. Is he headed towards Ronald Jones territory, or who was the guy last year they got from the 49ers who never played?
Elijah Mitchell.
Elijah Mitchell.
And so when we get to the roster breakdown part of this, I'm just like, what's he supposed to bring to this? If Rashard Smith and Emmett Johnson can elevate themselves with these preseason opportunities, I don't think should be assured of anything and needs more than 3 carries in a preseason game to show that.
Yeah, I will say this from we're going to do the 53 in a little bit. I agree. I'd like to know how he fits and what the role is for him. I don't think there's any chance he doesn't make the team. Just like Elijah Mitchell sucked, but he made the team.
Yeah.
You can't be much worse than Elijah Mitchell, but he was always on the roster. And so I do, I don't see either one. I think the rookies might make their way. The undrafted rookies could make their way onto the practice squad. I don't see him cracking the roster. Again, we'll get more into that a little bit later on. But on the point, Jeff, about Jaden Hicks, I mean, the secondary overall, you were a defensive back. I mean, that is a spot where there's a lot of question. They got 3 DBs that they're 3 starting defensive backs that they're trying to replace. You would like to see some progress there. Not that they were really bad against the Rams, but just that is this a big, question mark for this team coming in. And Jaden Hicks played well at safety, showed some depth there. Maybe a little more out of the frontline guys. They're going to play longer, so let's see that they deserve that spot and they can play at a high level and they can fill in for the guys that left.
Well, with Jaden Hicks, to me, it doesn't seem to be a physical thing. It's a mental thing from what I've gleaned from all the conversations about him, that he's, Spagnuolo asks a lot of the safeties because it's a very complex scheme. And so if he's not able to make the checks and do the things you have to do on the back end to get people in the right places, that's probably going to affect your playing time. But I would argue the value of him, just because of his size and his athletic ability, that he's a truer safety than a Shamari Connor or a Chris Rowland Wallace. And so he can do things from a versatility standpoint that I think this team could use. I mean, he could be like a nickel linebacker type player for you. He could be, he made a lot of plays in the run game that I don't know if some of those smaller guys are going to be as effective on a consistent basis of doing that against teams that are more, a bit like the Ravens or the Chargers, or you really try to push you around. And so I do see a value for him, but maybe because maybe they want him to be that kind of player and he can't handle that kind of mental workload is what's holding him back.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the problem.
Sam, anything else you want to throw in there that the Chiefs need to accomplish down in Tampa?
Well, I'm eager to see if they want to suit up Mansour Delane. They obviously want him to get snaps during this preseason. He's been in the no contact jersey all week. So do they want him to get run? Because he's behind. And I know I asked Stren, you were there this week when I asked Dave Merritt how far is he behind? He said, he's not behind. He's behind. I mean, you can't say he's not behind and then talk about the value of training camp. because he missed and he didn't get the snaps and the reps.
No, but he was in the huddle. He would run out to the huddle, right. Sam. It was all good.
Right. So any of us are ready for action, because we all saw how the plays unfolded during camp. But I'm eager to see whether or not he gets on the field, and I think he's been better since he was in the contact jersey than what we saw him early on. He is, and I've mentioned this before, he is handsy. So, I wouldn't be surprised if he does play, if we see a flag, but I actually think it'd be great for him if he does see it, if he can sort of test the boundaries and know what he can and can't get away with.
I saw the mitts on him on one of the reels from training camp, which made me think, they're trying to get him to stop using his hands so much.
Yeah, I saw the mitts come flying off too on one of the plays that were there. Yeah, that's they have basically oven mitts they put on the guy, so it's impossible for him to grab the jerseys and everything, so they're forced to use the techniques that are there. And he had one where I think he might even have been against Cyrus Allen on one of the practices I was watching, and the mitts come flying off. I'm like, doesn't that kind of defeat the purpose? What are we doing here if you're just gonna drop them off and then grab on? Who else needs a big game in your mind, Jeff? I agree. Mansour Lane was on my list. I think Peter Woods could use a game where he kind of builds back towards all the hype we were hearing about him. Don't know if it's going to be possible. Christian Fulton has looked terrible at camp. I think he could really use a good effort. Who do you think needs to show well in this?
Well, Justin Fields is in that category for me, because, as Sam said, he wasn't really impressing anybody through practice, and he had a solid game, against the Rams. And so he needs to continue showing that he can perform in these games, because obviously he's a number 2 player. He's a veteran. He's going to be a guy who's going to have to play in an emergency situation if Mahomes, something happens to him. And so you want to continue to see positive signs from him whenever he gets on the field against different uniforms.
Yeah. How about any tight end not named Kelsey, Sam? Would it be nice to maybe see somebody be fairly productive? They had less than 200 yards of production from the tight end position last year from anybody not named Kelsey. And that hasn't been the norm. They've had as much as 500 behind him over the last 5 years. I was digging through some of those numbers, but I think tight end could look a lot better. Jalen Moore maybe could inspire some confidence that he can, handle a starting job. I think he could use a really big game. He's obviously in a position battle. It seems like at his salary, the right tackle job should just be his, but he's obviously in a fight. He could use a good day. Who are you looking for to have a big game, or that you would say needs to have a big game in this preseason?
Yeah, there's several guys that I think we've got some roster battles that we'll get into on the 53 that I think can make a pretty strong case for themselves. I guess as far as the position you mentioned, Jake Brenningstool's had a good camp, and so I still think he has a chance to play himself onto the roster if he backs up what he's done in camp in the preseason games.
Yeah, I think that would be we'll at least give him something to think about, because I don't know that Jared Wiley has done anything in his entire time with the Chiefs that would make you think, okay, we got to have this guy on the roster. So there's a bit of a fight there. All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll come back. We are going to get into the 53. What does it look like right now? We'll do that after you hear from our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Your parking lot says a lot about your business. Cracks, potholes, faded striping, and damaged concrete can create safety concerns and leave the wrong impression with customers. Gann Asphalt and Concrete helps Kansas City businesses protect their properties with asphalt paving, seal coating, crack filling, parking lot striping, concrete work, and repairs. Their experienced crews deliver quality workmanship and dependable service on every project. Whether you need routine maintenance or a complete parking lot overhaul, Gann is ready to help you. Get started today with a free estimate at GannAsphalt.com. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lots. Italian Delight was the first restaurant to bring true New York-style pizza to Kansas City almost 50 years ago. They sell whole pies or pizza by the slice, or enjoy their classic strombolis, calzones, and sausage rolls. Sandwich lovers, check out their lineup of hot and cold subs, the combo, the meatball, or the Philly cheesesteak, just to name a few. And don't forget the pasta. Their famous lasagna and classic chicken Alfredo always hit the spot. And if you're hungry for lunch, check out their daily lunch specials, starting at under $10. Italian Delight can even cater your next work function or party. Dine in, carry out, or delivery, it's Italian Delight. Located just 3 minutes east of Kansas Speedway at 8145 State Ave in KCK. Check out the menu and order online at ItalianDelightKS.com. Kansas City's own Italian Delight. All right, let's start getting into this 53-man roster. We put together a group of, I don't know, but a little over 30 guys that are on the roster that we feel comfortable are definitely making the club. Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, Kenneth Walker, Brashard Smith, and Emmett Johnson at running back, Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Tyquan Thornton, and Cyrus Allen, all on the team. Travis Kelce, Noah Gray at tight end. Tackles, Josh Simmons, Jalen Moore is on. Guards, Kingsley Suamataia, Trey Smith, center, Creed Humphrey. Those offensive guys are all on the roster. On the defensive side of DN, George Karlaftis, Ashton Gelati, R. Mason Thomas on the roster. Chris Jones, Kairos Tonga, Peter Woods at D-tackle. They're there. Nick Bolton and Drew Tranquil. Two linebackers that are absolutely going to make this team. Mansour Delane, Noel Williams at corner, Chamari Connor, Alohi Gilman at safety. And then, of course, your three specialists, Harrison are all there. The rest of the spots, there's some guys that I think we would all agree they're on this roster. But the ones that, no doubt, no brainer, that's the list of guys that are there. So let's start at quarterback, and we'll make our way through. Sam, do you have them going with three quarterbacks, or is there a battle between Fields and Nussmeier to be the second and only other quarterback to make the 53?
Well, I think both could be true. I think there could be a battle between those guys, but I've got three. I think Nussmeier has certainly shown well enough for a 7th-round rookie to not get cut out of camp. And it's the conversation we had back in the summer that I'll reiterate again. There is space within the depth of this roster to keep three guys, because I still have them keeping guys that I don't think,
because it's not that good.
Yeah, it's not a deep roster. I still think one of the things I thought when I watched the preseason game, one of the other things I'd add that I'm looking for tomorrow and again next week is depth matters. And it showed up when Patrick Mahomes got hurt last year, and you were like, wow, so this is what it looks like with the rest of the guys. And you know, I mean, they were missing Rashee Rice, and there were some other guys out too during those weeks. But it's the depth of the roster that I feel like this team is a few key injuries away from being in some trouble.
Yeah. How did you put it on Tuesday that this is a team that could win a lot of games, but some injuries could be a real problem?
Yeah.
Like they get a few injuries, and it doesn't look, when you get to the depth part. I mean, again, going through this exercise this morning, I was like, I'm still looking to add guys, like not cut guys. Like, oh my God, I got to cut somebody. It's like, oh, who else is gonna make this roster? Jeff, you agree the three quarterbacks is going to be the path that they take?
Yeah, for the same reasons, and I'll add the other obvious one is that he's played well enough now in a preseason game to where he's not going to be able to get through a practice squad, without somebody claiming him. So there's no reason to even think about that route. But it's more to the point Sam made. He's one of the 53 best players on this team already, because it's hard to get a consensus on a good 53.
I think you see the talent, the arm talent there, and you're like, okay, this is worth investing some time in. Let's see what it is. And you have the space at running back, Jeff. We've got three: Kenneth Walker, Emmett Johnson, the draft pick, Brashard Smith, came up early. He seems to be high on the depth chart. Emari DeMarcado would seem like the likely fourth running back. There's no fullback to even be considered. Is 4 the number, and is DeMarcado the guy, or does he need to do something to make this roster?
It's 4 for me. I mean, as I said earlier, I'm trying to see where he fits, but I do think, again, like just because of the shortage of talent outside of the starters, that he has an opportunity here. When we get the receiver, there's certainly, I don't see them having 7 this time around, so Sam can rest easy. But I think DeMarcado also has value because he's got return ability. And so if you're looking for someone to help Dave Tobe out, I'm sure Tobe would rally to have him be a part of that. So that makes sense as well.
Yeah, I think the return, I think Jeff hit it, Sam. Like he's in the mix for kick returners. And if you're not going to keep 9 wideouts, which I know you'd love to do, Sam, I know your passion for that. But the kick return ability does seem to be his card for making this roster, even if we're not seeing much out of him in the offense.
Yeah, I don't know that I'd agree with that, because I think Brashard Smith and Nico Remigio are probably going to be your 2 primary kick returners, and he's certainly a guy that I think will be back there occasionally. We actually only saw him back there once in the preseason game. It was a touchback. He has slid down the roster over the past like 10 days or so. Like he was getting reps with the ones early on in camp. So I don't think he's a lock to make it. I've got him on the roster. Like Jeff, I've got the same 4 guys with DeMercado, but the Chiefs do something every year that surprises us. And I'm just saying this is an opportunity to don't be surprised, because it's trending in the wrong direction, I think, for Emari DeMercado. I think the thing that helps him is if Kenneth Walker goes down, you've got 44 NFL carries on your roster behind him, between Brashard Smith and Emmett Johnson combined. And so DeMercado having 3 years of experience, I think you want to keep that around.
Then the pass protection.
He's great. He's a great pass protection. I actually think that's one of the reasons he slid down the roster, though, is because Brashard Smith has become so much better at it.
Okay.
And I think that's allowed them to say, okay, well, the reason you're on the roster primarily is because you are probably the best pass pro guy in there. But then if Brashard Smith is only slightly worse at that, and you feel like he's a much better route runner, receiver, after the catch guy, that maybe you make that trade off and you play Brashard Smith the snaps you were intending to give Emari DeMercado.
Okay. Sam, we got to stay with you on the wide receivers because of your passion for the way they've gone about doing things. How many wideouts do you have on the roster right now? We had the 4 that are locks: Rice, Worthy, Thornton, and Allen. Who else is cracking this?
I think it's incredibly clear this year, more than any year. I've made this argument that you only need 6. I still think they'll find a way to keep 7.
Ye of little faith.
I mean, not even little. I mean, no faith. I mean, I made the argument in the summer that they never even used 6, 7, or 8 last year. I think they combined for like 2 catches, 3 catches, something like that. But I think their thinking on this is they've kept 8 last year, 7 the year before, and 7 the year before. And then you have this year's team, and Rashee Rice has not looked like himself yet. Xavier Worthy and Cyrus Allen have both missed time during camp. And Nico Remigio, who's on my roster, is more of a returner guy. So, like, why is this the year that I think they're going to go down to 6 guys? So, this is a complete roster bubble guy. One of the guys that, Soren, you mentioned, who needs to have a good game. This guy could make his case, and I've got Andrew Armstrong as the 7th. So I got 4 you mentioned: Jalen Royals, Nico Remigio. I think those 6 are pretty certain, and then Andrew Armstrong as a 7th.
Interesting. Okay. How many you got, Jeff? Do you have 7 as well?
I have 6, but I went back and forth on Armstrong. Largely because of the blocking he showed in that game. That
is he the guy that gets cut? Do you have Royals and Remigio?
Yeah, he gets cut. Yeah, I got Royals and Remigio. Just because Royals is the draft pick, Remigio returns kicks. But I agree with everything Sam said. It's not a group that you have a ton of faith in if people start going down. And I think back to a couple of years ago when they had to go get Juju Smith-Schuster and they were trying to make other things work with their losing players. It was Rashee Rice went down, if I remember. And so, I don't feel confident in it, but I just don't think there's enough talent there to go with more than 6. I just don't. I think, as Sam just said, I think anybody beyond the top 4 or 5 is not going to get a whole bunch of run anyway. So why waste the talent? Why waste the pick?
I had the same debate you did, Jeff, and came to the same conclusion and left Armstrong off because I felt like you could get him to the practice squad. I've got Remigio and Royals on there. Royals are just not going to give up on this quick, and Remigio, I think, is a Dave Tobe selection there, so he makes it. But Sam's point about, like, listen, they keep too many wideouts every year. Why would we think they're suddenly going to get it figured out is a great one. I do think that they've got maybe – and I love the point that Sam made about Rashee Rice not being healthy, Xavier Worthy missing time. I may be completely missing the boat, but I just had the 6 as well. But I think if I'm wrong, this is the spot where I'll start with where I'm wrong is that there will be another wideout that's kept just because that's been the story of what they do. How about O-line, Sam? We had the 5 guys. You didn't have Khalil Benson. You kind of put together our list of here are the no-brainers. We didn't have Khalil Benson on that. I would assume you've got him clearly making the team.
Yeah.
And along with how many more offensive linemen?
I've got 9 total. So I've got the reason I put those 5 is because I think Jalen Moore is going to win the job. And so I've got those 5 as the starters with Khalil Benson, Esapole, Hunter Norzat, and Mike Caliendo. And I said this on Tuesday, and I'll reiterate it here. This is the spot where I think they at. I don't think making the 53-man roster guarantees you're going to be on the roster and September 14th when the Chiefs line up against the Broncos. Like they've got to get better here.
Let's say you got Caliendo, Norzad, Khalil Benson, and Esapole added to our 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think Benson and Pole, like no one should have them off the roster.
Right. Jeff, does it look the same for you?
Yeah, same exact group. And I actually broke it down into tackle, guard, and center. And when I was doing it, I was thinking, man, I consider Norzad to be, even though he plays guard, to be having more value as a backup center. And so I actually ended up I got 3 guards and one's Mike Caliendo. And to Sam's point, like that just can't be making people feel good over there. I think Trey Smith with a back problem. Trey Smith with an injury, a hip injury.
Well, that's why I think Khalil Benson is the backup. I think if something happened, it actually would be Khalil Benson.
Yeah, I think that's I think that's a likely scenario. I've got the same 9, and so who would you have if they go pick up a guard? Do you have them picking up somebody and then going to 10 with the offensive line, or who's the guy that you think is on the cut list? If they say, okay, we found this guy, you're out. Who's the last guy on the list, Sam, right now?
Well, tomorrow I think we'll answer that question because I think Mike Caliendo is probably who's going to start in place of Trey Smith. And last week they started Khalil Benson in place of there. But now, like you said earlier, Soren, Jalen Moore and Khalil Benson need to play tackle. And so you're going to get that answer for who's winning that battle. I think Hunter Norzad has had a better camp than Mike Caliendo has. But, this is a team that on the offensive line in particular has, prioritized experience with its backups more than its starters. All of these starters, I was going through this the other day, all of these starters have started as a rookie. Josh Simmons started his first snap. Kingsley Suamataia started his first snap. Creed Humphrey started the first snap of his rookie year, and Trey Smith started the first snap of his rookie year. So, like, if Khalil Benson starts, you'll have 5 offensive linemen who all started, but they're different about with backups. They like to have somebody at every position that brings an element of experience, which, at tackle, they're not going to have that comfort that they've had the plus. When I say experience, I just mean within their system. Right. Like guys who have been on their roster and in their system, and Caliendo's played games.
Yeah. I think that's, we saw, I'm drawing a blank on the kid who went to Washington from Illinois. That was here forever. But never really moved into the starting lineup, and then ended up signing with Washington. What was his name? The guard from Illinois.
Nick Allegretti.
Thank you very much. Yes, that's kind of proved the mindset that you're talking about right there. All right, we still have the defensive side.
We got tight ends as well.
Oh yeah, we didn't do tight ends. Okay, so give me tight ends. We had the 2 making it. How many Jeff do you have at tight end in addition to Noah Gray and Travis Kelce? Thank you for reminding me.
I had 4. I had Jared Wiley and Jake Brenningstool both making it. Largely because if you're going to run the football more, you're likelier to have your tight ends get more banged up, getting more physical. And I just, to be honest with you, I don't know if I could trust them with just 3 tight ends. And I don't know who Brenningstool, what Sam says, looked better, but I also feel like, is there that big of a difference between him and Jared Wiley right now in my mind? I don't know.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so he's got 4 tight ends. How many do you have, Sam?
I have 3 without Brennan. So I've got Travis Kelce, Noah Gray, Jared Wiley. But this was my exercise for the offense was Andrew Armstrong, Jared Wiley, and Jake Brenningstool, 3 guys for 2 spots. Because I don't think you should just assume it's going to be Jared Wiley either. You do have an opportunity to keep 3 and keep Kelce, Gray, and Brenningstool. I just think Jared Wiley looks like he's slightly ahead right now, but Jeff's math on that is definitely not out of the picture.
I'm with you. I had Brenningstool on. I mentioned that I needed to find guys to get on there. And then I wasn't really looking for guys to cut. I was looking for guys to add. But then I screwed up my numbers and I had 54. And so then I did have to go cut somebody, and Brenningstool was the guy I cut. And because I think he can get to the practice squad and you can put him there. But it's not going to shock me if Brenningstool's there, if they keep one less wideout. But one of the things you have to do is you got to figure out who's going to cover the kicks, right? And none of those Wiley will play special teams. Brenningstool is he looks like a tall wideout. Like he looks more like Ed McCaffrey than he does a tight end in my opinion. And so I don't know how much, he's going to play on special teams. So he really needs to have a game where he shows that he can catch the football, in my opinion, because I do kind of look at those tight ends and go, well, Noah Gray will play some special teams. Kelsey's not. I don't see where Brenningstool kind of fits in that. And so I think this is one of the roster crunches. To your point, it may be a Wiley Brenningstool for the third spot in this equation. All right, we want to get to the defensive side. We'll do it after you hear from our friends at Italian Delight. Italian Delight was the first restaurant to bring true New York-style pizza to Kansas City almost 50 years ago. They sell whole pies or pizza by the slice, or enjoy their classic strombolis, calzones, and sausage rolls. Sandwich lovers, check out their lineup of hot and cold subs, the combo, the meatball, or the Philly cheesesteak, just to name a few. And don't forget the pasta. Their famous lasagna and classic chicken Alfredo always hit the spot. And if you're hungry for lunch, check out their daily lunch specials, starting at under $10. Italian Delight can even cater your next work function or party. Dine in, carry out, or delivery, it's Italian Delight. Located just 3 minutes east of Kansas Speedway at 8145 State Ave in KCK. Check out the menu and order online at ItalianDelightKS.com. Kansas City's own Italian Delight. If your property needs asphalt or concrete work, Gann Asphalt and Concrete is ready to help you. From parking lots and drive lanes to sidewalks, curbs, patching, seal coating, crack filling, and repairs. Their experienced crews handle projects of all sizes throughout the entire Kansas City metro. Whether you're fixing problem areas or planning a larger paving project, Gann focuses on quality workmanship and dependable service from start to finish. No matter what shape your pavement is in today, they can help improve it. Request a free estimate and learn more at GannAsphalt.com. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lots. All right, over to the defensive side. We'll start up front. We locked in on the defensive line. George Karlaftis, Ashton Gelati, R. Mason Thomas at end, Chris Jones, Kairos Tonga, and Peter Woods at defensive tackle. Jeff, how many do they keep along that defensive line, and who adds to that group of six?
I had 9 total,
okay.
And I had FAU making it as one of those. How many were the locks? We had 7 total there.
We had 6 total.
6 total. So I'll just give it Karlaftis, Thomas, FAU, Gelati, and Ogbred edge, and then Jones, Woods, Tonga, and Norman Lott at tackle. So 9 total. And I think FAU makes it just because, again, it's hard to find anybody else body wise who can, add to that mix.
Well, I think there's a caveat to this. I mean, Omar Norman Lott probably will start on PUP. He hasn't practiced at all. Yeah. So when you get on the reserve PUP, I think it's 4 games you're out.
Which, by the way, can we just take a moment and say that Patrick Mahomes came back in record time, that maybe somebody should have been in the training room. Like I heard a lot of times about when I got into the building, Patrick Mahomes was already there working with Julie. I never heard, and there was Omar Norman Lott on the other side of the training room also getting ready. Can I just point out that it's one guy's got a tremendous amount of accomplishments and he's still busting his ass like it's nobody's business to get back, and the other guy we're still waiting on.
Yeah, that's throwing him under the bus, I guess.
Yeah, I did it. That's my words.
Yeah.
Anyway,
everybody's different.
Yeah. To your point, Sam. It is looking like that since he hasn't played now. So what do you got along the defensive line?
Yeah. So what I was going to say is when you start on the reserve PUP, you actually don't count towards the 53. So I have him on the PUP, which creates another spot. But this is one of the areas in which it creates a spot where you're like, okay, then who? So as a way of look, I mean, I'm not. Are
you going to say it, Sam?
Well, I was going to say I'm not calling.
You're going to use the word.
I'm not going to say this is a cop out, but it's easier just to put Omar Norman Lott on the roster because he's gonna be on the. But then you got to find a guy. And who is?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Are you going to say the name?
I
doesn't want to hear it.
So I've got Felix making it beyond the the 4 starters and the 2 rookies that you mentioned. Felix Anudike-Uzomah, Emmanuel Ogbah. You don't pick him up for no reason,
right?
And then you have to have another defensive tackle, right? So I think Marcus Harris is 4th on the list right now, and I think he's another guy though. Of all the guys I've mentioned on the 53, I feel the least confident about him. I'm probably the only guy who's out there watching camp who's putting him on the list, which is it's not a spot where you want to be the contrarian because because everyone else is paying close attention to this too. I just like you have to have 4 defensive tackles on your roster.
You were going to find a way. Maybe should go try to find a way to bring Derek Nottie back. I thought that's where it is. I thought Soren was just bracing for it. Don't say it.
Yeah. If I had thought of it, I actually probably
would have done it just to tweak me.
I'll say like that. Even with that, that's 9. And there's no way they're only keeping 8 defensive. They've not kept 8 since they moved back to a 4-3 with Steve Spagnuolo. It's always been 9 or 10. You can't keep just 8 defensive linemen. I would just implore people to go through the roster and find the 9th guy.
Yeah, I tried, and it's not easy. Like that is where you start to see. We talk about the lack of depth that's there. It's hard to find. I mean, I've got the 6 we had: Omar Norman Lott, Felix Anudike Uzama, and Emmanuel Agba. I think you are right. I think Lott's going to start on PUP, but I had no idea which defensive tackle to add, so I copped out and took Omar Norman Lott. But it is barreling towards him being on the PUP list, and I think that's a spot, Sam, obviously where they could be looking to add somebody off the waiver wire as well, as you pointed out, having the 9th selection this year, not 31st on the waiver wire. It looks like D tackle's a spot they should be looking for somebody as well.
Yeah, totally. And there is one other name I'd throw into the mix because I think I would have put him on the roster before they signed Emmanuel Agba, which is Tyreek Smith has had a good camp, an edge player. So he's someone people can watch and, look to watch in the preseason game to see if he backs that up in an actual game. It's 57 off the edge. I think he's had a pretty good camp and at least has a chance to still play his way on.
Okay. How about linebacker, Jeff? Where do you go at linebacker? We've got Bolton and Tranquil as the obvious guys. This is a spot that special teams ends up playing a big role in as their 4-teamers, as they like to say. How many linebackers you got and who are they?
5 total. Jeffrey Bossa, Cooper McDonald, Jack Cochran, and Bossa, obviously second year. Cochran, because he's a Tobe favorite, Dave Tobe favorite, and then McDonald was here last year, so he's got experience. I think you could go beyond that if you needed to, but I think that's a safe bet. 5.
Okay. I've got 6. I'll add in Cole Christensen. When they went and brought him back, he's been kind of one of their favorites as well. And, with only 4 running backs, I only kept 3 tight ends. That was kind of my thing. Was it going to be Brenning Stool or was it going to be an extra linebacker? And I threw Cole Christensen on there. So I've got the same list that Jeff has, Sam, but I've added Cole Christensen to it. Who do you got at linebacker?
Yeah, I was actually, before you said that, going to say I thought linebacker was the easiest group. I just had the standard 5. Cole Christensen, they've gotten back to the practice squad every year. So, and also, I think he should be a vested veteran now to where
he can pick his place.
Yeah, you don't even have to worry about the waiver and somebody else claiming him. And the Chiefs have elevated him for games. So I think if he's going to be on a practice squad, why not choose the one that will actually dress you for some games?
Yeah, that's a good point. I now don't like my decision, so thanks for making me feel bad about where I went at the linebacker spot. How about corner? Mansour Delane, Noel Williams, the only ones we put there. You got a couple of guys that are kind of tweeners, although I think we're all putting Shamari Connor at safety. We have him as one of the 2 safeties on the make list. But, Sam, who did he add to Delane and Noel Williams at corner?
Yeah, I probably should have put Chris Roland Wallace as a lock too. He's played so much with the ones, and they also like him at safety. I think some people will be surprised that I didn't have L'Jarius Sneed as a lock. He just hasn't been playing. I mean, he just came back this week, and I don't think that you can just. I think it's too easy to look back at 2024, 2023, and say, well, this is what he did in 2023, so therefore this is the same path. And look, we've all made that joke, but the reality is he's older now. I mean, he's 3 years older now. So just this assumption that it's going to just come back as quickly, I do have him making the roster. I've got Jaden Kennedy under cornerback because he plays the slot. And so this is by far the hardest position, by the way. I've got them cutting Kader Kohu. And then the battle is Christian Fulton and Melvin Smith. And Melvin Smith has been working ahead of Christian Fulton. You save money by cutting Christian Fulton. I'd keep Melvin Smith because I think he's had a better camp. I'm predicting that they'll keep Christian Fulton because
Okay.
I think admitting your mistake can be a really hard thing to do.
I mean,
You got six?
6 corners, yeah.
Okay.
and
I'm cutting a guy who's been running with the ones.
do you feel like Smith can get to the practice squad more so than Fulton just because of the pedigree of Fulton?
Yeah,
That's
well,
one of the
Fulton was also a vested veteran, so he'd get to pick his destination. And I think,
But if you cut Fulton, don't you think if you cut him from that deal, well, he's not staying around?
Well, that's what I was gonna say. You can confidently say if you cut him that he's not picking the spot where he feels like he hasn't played much, He'd pick a new opportunity elsewhere. Melvin Smith, when you gave him some snaps with the ones, if he gets to pick this practice squad destination, would probably love to come back.
Yeah, I've got the same 6 corners. Roland Wallace, I agree. I think he is a lock for the roster. I think we could add him into that mix. I don't think they're going to admit it wrong with Fulton, even though it does save him some money. Snead will make it. They didn't bring him. They keep talking about how they know how to handle him. Okay, and I think Kennedy's on the roster as well. So I've got the same 6. Jeff, you have 6 corners, or did you go with 5? Sound like you're a little surprised with the 6 number.
I went with 5, but I consider Roland Wallace and Connor to be hybrid type players, and Roland Wallace. I could easily move my list to have him be in the corner selection, so it could be 6. But I have 5 when I made my count, and it was Delane Williams, Fulton, Snead, and Kennedy. And I felt the same way. Snead was the hard one, but I just feel like they went through this before with him. They went and got him at the end of the offseason. He hasn't done anything, so how do you really evaluate what he can be for you on the field? I don't love it. I think it's a mistake, but I am taking those 5 right now.
Okay. How about safety then, Jeff? Then you got Chris Roland Wallace listed over on the safeties,
group.
but does that mean that you're cutting somebody along the lines of Jaden Hicks? Are you cutting Wampa, who we've heard a lot about? Where do you go?
My numbers, I've got Hicks, Roland Wallace, and Wampa.
Okay.
Because I feel like I've heard a lot of good things about Wampa, and he can play on special teams for you. And so I've got 10 DBs total. It's just the mix may be different from what you guys have, but I feel like Wampa's shown he's one of the top 53 players on this team right now.
I got the same 10. I got Roland Wallace listed over a corner, but I've got the same 10. Sam?
Yeah, I've got the same 10 as well. I think safety's pretty standard. And look, the Chiefs, I think, would actually prefer to play Chris Roland Wallace as safety. There's just a very clear need at nickel cornerback, and why not? After the way the last couple of years have gone, we've had to slide Shamari Connor into the nickel. Why not start training camp and say, nickels is your job, go do it? Yeah, I do. That was kind of the vibe Dave Merritt gave off when he was talking on Thursday up there. What did he say? He said something to the effect of, we like Roland Wallace. We like Crow. He made a point that that's his nickname, Chris Roland Wallace. We like Crow at safety, but we've got some needs. He pretty much basically, I mean, to me, that was kind of, I thought, an indictment of the cornerback position, and speaks to the fact that Fulton hadn't looked good, and that they have real questions at the cornerback spot. I think they have questions at the cornerback spot every year, whether there should be or not. Remember how often last year during this time, because Jalen Watson was missing time, that Steve Spagnuolo was like, we got to figure out what the second cornerback's going to be. And we're all just like, well, Jalen Watson, right? And I mean, he was worried then, and the guy ended up signing $51 million in LA. But this year it is real, because you look at even those guys we mentioned, Mansour Delane, we had a conversation with about earlier. Whatever you think he's going to be, he's had 3 practices and pads. You've got Noah Williams, who I think's had a great camp. We mentioned the Jerry Snead conversation. We mentioned the Christian Fulton. Yes, I do think cornerback is a concern. And the more I think about that, the more I'm just wondering, why didn't we see this Mansour Delane thing coming? Why wasn't he the guy that we kept projecting to the Chiefs? And I know Jeff had projected a different cornerback, but you look at their cornerback room even with them, and it's pretty obvious why they made the move for Mansour Delane. Yeah, why they made the trade up. All right, so then just to underscore, Jeff, what's the, if anything, right now, what was your argument as to on the roster who was the last guy to make it? For me, it was Brenningstool out, and now I hate it. I would probably just put Brenningstool back on and take Cole Christensen off, because Sam made a great point about it. That would be my spot where I was looking at it, where the 53rd spot is. Where is it for you?
It was Brenningstool. It was he was the last guy on for me, and Sam made the point about Andrew Armstrong. It was between those two for me.
Okay.
Wampa, I was thinking more about again, my mix for 5 safeties is because of the hybrid thing, but like he was close to that category as well. But it just felt like those two were the ones that were on the cut line for me.
Sam, last spot.
Marcus Harris. But then, I mentioned the conversation I had about tight end with Andrew Armstrong in there. So really those two guys, Armstrong and Marcus Harris.
There it is. You're ready to watch the Chiefs and Bucks on Saturday night. We've given you everything you need. You can make your own roster decisions as you see them play the Bucks. And, of course, if you need any help when it comes to your parking lot, our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete, but solving parking lot problems for more than 30 years, maintain a safe, professional-looking property. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, whether you need asphalt, paving, crack sealing, concrete repairs, or striping, Gann delivers quality work you can trust. Visit them online at GannAsphalt.com. And if you're hungry for a little lunch today, get over to Italian Delight, true New York style pizza. They brought it to Kansas City almost 50 years ago, just a few minutes east of Kansas Speedway at 8145 State Ave. You can find them online at ItalianDelightKS.com. They're wonderful pizzas, strombolis, calzones, subs, lasagna. They got it all. It's Kansas City's best. It is Italian Delight. Find them online at ItalianDelightKS.com. For Jeff Chadiha, for Sam McDowell, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Red, Gold, and Bold.